What's going on, everyone? Homework assignment 19. Today's objective: I can graph equations written in slope-intercept form. So a bunch of new stuff we're learning about here. All right, let's get right into it. So vocabulary, we're getting two terms we're gonna work on. One is the idea of the y-intercept. So y-intercept, and we're gonna take our definitions literally. The y-intercept is the y-coordinate of the point where a graph crosses the y-axis. Okay, we'll get a visual of what that is. In our slope-intercept equation, it's going to represent the letter. Oh, I see that my mouse is off here. It's going to represent the letter B. Okay. Slope is going to represent the steepness of a line. M. You've probably you may have heard the word like ski slope before. Well, when people ski or snowboard, you go down mountains, and mountains always have specific slopes. And however you ski or snowboard might depend on, or your level of skiing and snowboard might depend on the steepness of the mountain. If it's more steep, then that means that you're more experienced, and you'll probably be okay. If it's less steep, maybe you're not as experienced, and it's going to be more flat. So slope, again, is a steepness of our line. So this is the equation in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to make sure I actually circle this for us. It's going to be a very important equation for us this year. This is the equation of a line, a straight line. All right, it reads as y is equal to mx plus b, which means y is equal to m times x plus b. Okay. M, as we mentioned before, is going to be our slope. So that's going to tell us the steepness of our line. B, as we saw before, is going to be our y-intercept. The x and y in the equations are simply just coordinates that are on that line. Whatever the line is, those are coordinates that fit it. All right, so two examples we'll run through here. So we have y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 5. Let's see if we can identify the slope in the y-intercept. So let's take a look at the placement of our equation. Take a look at where everything is placed, and let's see if we could find things here. So let's ask first, what is our slope? Well, our slope is that coefficient of x, which is our m value, right? Which is identified right there. It is a negative 3/4. And what is our y-intercept? Well, our y-intercept here is that constant value that's kind of just by itself added on to the end. And our constant value in this case looks like it's going to be a positive 5. We take the sign in front. Let's take a look at our other equation. So let's see, what is our slope? And our slope in this equation is 2, but I'm going to write it, just so we get used to it, I'm going to write it as a fraction. All right, just because that's going to be beneficial to us moving forward. So even though it's not a fraction here, I'm going to write it as 2/1. And our y-intercept is the value that's kind of added on there. But remember, I want us to take the sign that is in front of our value. So it's not just 7, but our y-intercept is a negative 7. All right, let's keep rolling. All right, so we're going to be heavy on the steps. 4 steps that I'm asking you to follow. Refer back to the steps as you're working. Okay, so here we go. Steps for graphing equations in slope-intercept form. So here are your steps. So step 1, you're going to identify the m and b. So I'm going to say m and b, but know that whenever I say m, I mean the slope, b, I mean the y-intercept. So we're going to identify the slope and the y-intercept. And you're going to write the slope as a fraction. Okay, so identify slope and y-intercept, write the slope as a fraction. Step 2, we're going to plot the y-intercept. We're going to plot that b value. Step 3, from b, we're going to use a method called rise over run with the slope. If the slope is positive, the line should rise from left to right. If the slope is negative, the line should fall from left to right. Okay, so rise from left to right, meaning that from our left to our right, our line is going to go upward, so that's rising from left to right. falling from left to right is going downward from left to right. Okay, we read graphs the same way we read words, books, anything, from left to right. Step 4, we're going to continue to use rise over run. We're going to connect points and include arrowheads, and we're going to label our graph just to get into a good practice. So let's go ahead, let's go into one, and let's use the steps to help us out. All right, so we have y is equal to 4/5 x plus 2. So the first step, identify the slope and y-intercept and write the slope as a fraction. Okay, so let's do that. So first step, identify our slope. So our slope is 4/5, already in a fraction form. We're going to leave it just like that. Notice how I'm not writing 4/5 x. I never say that my slope is including my x. My slope is always the coefficient, not including x. My slope is 4/5, and I'm even going to write this next to it. I'm going to write this rise over run. I'm going to write that right next to it. Okay, because 4 is going to be my rise, 5 is going to be my run. My y-intercept, my b value, is going to be positive 2, as we can see right here. All right, so step 1 is done. Let's go back to our steps. Step 2, we're going to plot b. Oh, well, how do we plot b? Well, this is a nice, easy one. If this is a positive 2, then b for me is going to be right here. I count up. I should change my color here. I count up from my origin, 1, 2. It's a positive 2. There is my b value. All right. That's it. Step 2 is done. Step 3, from b, okay, this is the part where we can get messy. From b, we're going to use rise over run with our slope. Okay, if m is positive, so let's just focus on that. If m is positive, the line should rise from left to right. Okay, so m, our slope is positive. I see it's a positive 4/5. So let me actually change up my color just so we can see what I'm doing here. So from my y-intercept, right? From my y-intercept, make sure I wrote that. From b, yeah, from the y-intercept. We're going to rise 4 units. So we're going to rise 4 and run 5. Here's what we do. Okay, I'll mark it out for us here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here I am. And I'm going to run 5. And because it's positive, notice what's going to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's where I'm going to end up. And I'm going to go ahead and plot that point right there. Okay. Notice now, so if I have a line going through these points, notice that it's going to go upward from left to right. That's what I want. That's a positive slope. So far, so good. I can continue doing this in both directions. So I can rise 4 units. So I can go, let's move my mouse. I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. If you notice that your line is like getting crooked, then there's something wrong. Okay. If you're off a point, then that's going to happen. I could even go back to my original point here, my y-intercept, and do the same thing in the opposite direction. Go down 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and go over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I ask you to do this. Notice that you're going to continue. Okay, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, and I have my line. Notice that that's a nice straight line. All right, we had a positive line. Great. Our step 3 is actually done. So 4, we actually went into 4. We continue to rise over run. So we continue plotting more points, connect points, and include arrowheads. Label your graph. So I made as many points as I could because I'm going to be off the graph in a bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make my line. Now, I expect you to use a straight edge. It's impossible for me to make straight lines here. You're going to see that a lot this year from me. I'm going to try a few times, though. Get the straightest line that I can. You shouldn't be using crooked lines. Use a ruler. Use a Metro card. Use a protractor, whatever you have. Okay? Throw your arrowheads on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and label my line. So I'm going to say that this is the line y is equal to 4/5 x plus 2. And that's it. There's our graph. Let's see one more. I know this is a long one. Let's see one more with slight differences. Okay, same deal. We're going to follow all the steps. So we have y is equal to negative 3/4 x minus 5. So let's go ahead first. Let's identify our slope and our y-intercept. So my slope is negative 3/4. It's already a fraction, so I can leave it just like that. And I'm going to add this on to rise over run. All right. My y-intercept is negative 5. Great. Step 1 is finished. Step 2, let's plot our B point. It's a negative 5. So from my origin, I'm going to count down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. There is my point. I'm going to make it a little bit more prominent. Great. All right. Step 3. I'm going to rise over run using my slope. Now, my slope is negative. So that means that in some capacity, my line should be going downward from left to right. Okay, it should be going downward from left to right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start from my y-intercept. I'll count up 3 still because I can, even though it says negative. I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3. But because it's negative 3/4, I'm going to run 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. And there is going to be my point. Okay, notice now, if I make a line through these 2 points, notice how it's going to go, not crooked, straight. It's going to go downward from left to right. That's what I want. That's the whole point. So let's continue. Let's make a few more points. So up 3, 1, 2, 3 over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, careful about your placement. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Brings us to the edge over here. All right, same thing in the opposite direction. From here, I'm going to go down 3. Over 4, down 3. All right, there's our line. Use a straight edge, line through it. I'm off my points. All right, your line should never look crooked. Mine does because I don't have an ability to draw straight lines on this, but that's fine. Arrowheads and label. Y is equal to negative 3/4 x minus 5. There it is. Tutorial of how to graph lines. Use those steps. I'm going to be looking for those steps when we work in class tomorrow. See y'all then.